Back in 1283, if this story is to be believed, a sympathetic prison warden in the Chinese town of Dadu prepared the final meal for prisoner Wen Tiancheng, a Chinese hero who is still held up as a symbol of righteousness and patriotism. Now, the warden only had a handful of ingredients at his disposal, but Wen's final meal has become culinary legend known as sanbeiji, or 3-cup chicken.
Well, that 3-cup chicken, you're right, it's 3 basic ingredients: soy sauce, rice wine, and sesame oil. Not the toasted sesame oil that we come to think of here, just plain old sesame oil. Now, over the years, this dish has added quite a few ingredients: chilies, some herbs, spices, aromatics. Now, we're going to take the best of those and show a great version to make at home.
All right.
And the first thing that we're going to deal with is a little bit of fresh ginger. This is a 2-inch piece of ginger. It's going to add some really nice sweetness and pepperiness to the dish. Now, the best way to peel ginger is actually to just use a little spoon and take off that papery skin just on the outside. It's going to take a lot less than a knife or even a peeler will. The spoon will also let us kind of get into all those little crevices. It's not a perfectly shaped root. We haven't been able to figure out how to get it exactly all the same size. So the little spoon will get us right in there. Now, if you like to make rice and things like that, oh, this is great. You put it in the freezer, put it in a little bundle, stick it right in the water that you're using to cook rice and fish it out. Just tons of flavor right in the peel. All right, so that looks good. So now, to prep the ginger, we want to cut it into very thin slices, and we're going to cut it into half moons. So we'll cut it lengthwise right in half, and each one of these halves will just go right across with our knife and make very thin slices. And we're cutting this rather large because we actually want to find the little pieces in our meal. Also, the grated ginger just made the sauce very cloudy. And as you get towards your fingers, always a good idea to slow down. There we go. All right, one other thing to prep before we get to the chicken.
All right.
Because there is chicken in here. Scallions. Now, I've gone ahead and sliced 4 scallions. We're using both the whites and light part as well as the dark part of the scallions. This is going to be for cooking. This is going to be towards the end. We're going to add this.
Yeah, it's like 2 vegetables in one.
It really is. Take off the root end here, and I'll just separate these right here where the tree branches connect to the bottom trunk here. And we're going to cut these on a bias. So I'll go ahead and start cutting these right at an angle. And same thing here. I'm just going to lop off the bottom. And I'm staggering these just like that so I can make very easy, thin cuts. So these are going to go into the bowl with the rest of the scallions. Again, it was 6 total. And same thing here with the greens. When I get towards the top, I'm not really a big fan of these little dried out pieces. So we'll get rid of those. The bench scraper is a great way of pulling a whole bunch of chopped vegetables into a bowl without dulling the knife. So now let's talk a little bit about chicken. Now, we're creating a marinade, but it's also a sauce. We're going to use it to flavor the chicken. Then later on, it's also going to be the braising liquid.
Okay.
Now, before we get to the chicken, let's put our sauce together. Now, this is our first cup, and it's cup as in container, not cup as in 8 ounces of liquid. So this is a 1/3 cup of soy sauce. Again, that's that first container or first cup of the triumvirate. It was the soy sauce, the rice wine, and of course the sesame oil. And now this is a 1/3 cup of dry sherry. This is instead of rice wine. It's more readily available and also has a really nice warm flavor. And a tablespoon of brown sugar. This is light brown sugar. It's going to add some sweetness. It's also going to help the sauce kind of cling to the chicken. We'll whisk this together, dissolving the sugar. And I'll set this aside while we work on the chicken. The traditional recipe calls for hacking up whole chickens into tiny little pieces. We weren't really crazy about some of the shards that we found in the pieces from using a cleaver. Also, it was just really messy. So we're going to go with boneless, skinless chicken thighs. They're perfect, going to turn nice and tender and lots of flavor. Now, this is 1.5 pounds of chicken thighs. Again, they're boneless and skinless. I've already cut most of these into 2-inch pieces. Just going to finish this last one. I do want to get rid of some of this fat, but a lot of this fat is going to melt away.
And this is not a recipe you'd want to substitute boneless, skinless chicken breast for the thighs, because it won't work.
No, just way too dry. And then you don't have to be precious about this. It's 2-inch pieces, nice and big, so they're not going to overcook. So let's get this chicken right into our marinade. Do you say marinade or marinade?
I say marinade.
Yeah? I always think it depends on how much it costs.
Yes, The more expensive it is, the more marinati it becomes.
It's like vase and vase, right? Vase is over 20 bucks. All right, use a pair of tongs. We'll just toss this right in there. It's a lot of marinade again, but it's going to be the sauce later on. So we're gonna set this aside while we start cooking. Let's get our aromatics into the pan along with 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil. We're using this instead of sesame oil. We usually have toasted sesame oil on ham, but a lot of people don't have actual sesame untoasted oil. So this is just plain vegetable oil. Our ginger, 12 cloves of garlic, and we've gone ahead and cut these in half.
So a lot of hearty aromatics, a lot of ginger, a lot of garlic.
A lot of garlic and a little bit of spice here. You can use anywhere between a half a teaspoon up to 3/4 teaspoon of dried chili flakes. And we're using these instead of Thai bird chilies, which are very, very spicy.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Should I add all of it?
All of it.
It's all going in.
All in. Nothing but net.
So we're gonna put this over medium-low. I'll stir this, and we're gonna cook this. It's going to become very, very fragrant. And we left the pieces of the garlic nice and big. It's going to get very toasty and actually tender. That is some good aromas coming out of this skillet.
Ugh, what a difference 10 minutes makes.
Seriously, and you notice that it's not scorched, don't have any burnt garlic. All right, so now let's go ahead and put the chicken right in along with all that marinade.
I love this recipe because the marinade becomes the sauce. How smart is that?
This was a great discovery for us. A lot of the more modern day versions of this recipe start by browning or stir frying the chicken on its own. Well, we went back to really, really old recipes and we found that the chicken was cooked in the sauce for long periods of time. So we were thinking, do we really need to brown the chicken first to get all that really good flavor? But between the soy sauce, the dry sherry, all the aromatics in here, it was not needed. All right, so we're bringing this up to a simmer over medium-high, and it's just there. Comes together quickly. So now I'll reduce the heat to medium-low. We're gonna start cooking this for about 10 minutes. It won't be done yet, but 10 minutes so far. All right, that is smelling delicious.
It really is.
Again, the chicken is not done yet. We're gonna add our scallion whites at this point. Toss this right in there. And we're gonna let this cook for another 10 minutes or so. We're looking for a temperature around 200 degrees, which is a bit higher than we usually call for with our chicken recipes. But that's because we want this chicken to be very, very tender. Oh, it smells so good. And we're almost done. Now we're going to thicken this with a cornstarch slurry right at the end to really just thicken and give that sauce a little bit more body. I've got here a teaspoon of cornstarch. I'm gonna add a tablespoon of water and whisk this together. Let's bring this over here. Just clear a little bit right here in the center. Add that in. I'm going to whisk this right into that sauce there, and it's going to simmer for just about a minute until it thickens. You can see it's thickening almost immediately.
Right away.
All right, so let's move this off the heat and finish the dish. One of the main ingredients that we found and we really loved was Thai basil. And you can use just regular basil as well if you can't find this. Now, if the leaves are rather big, you do want to cut them in half because we're going to add these in large pieces right into our skillet. So again, that was a cup of Thai basil, and there are scallion greens from 6 scallions that we sliced earlier. And we'll finish it up with a tablespoon of toasted sesame oil.
Well, I love that usually what we consider aromatics are actually the vegetables. You have the basil, the scallions, the ginger, and the garlic.
Enough of this, we are ready to eat.
All right.
Miss Julia, let me get you all that garlic and ginger and that pretty little Thai basil leaf there for you.
Thank you. My mouth has been watering since you finished the dish. Mmm. The flavors are simple, but they're layered on top of one another. The garlic, the ginger, and then that fresh basil.
Mm-hmm. The best part is finding one of these pieces of garlic. They're so toasted and really, really tender. It's kind of like a garlicky cashew.
Bridget, I love this recipe. So easy and so flavorful. Thank you.
I would be willing to go to prison for this one.
So to make your own version of sanbeiji, start with chicken thighs and soak them in a soy marinade. Brown some garlic and ginger in the skillet, then add the chicken with the marinade and cook that chicken till it's good and tender. Finish with some Thai basil and sesame oil, and you've got it. So from our test kitchen to your kitchen, a great new recipe for a 3-cup chicken. Thanks for watching America's Test Kitchen. What'd you think?
Well, leave a comment and let us know which recipes you're excited to make, or you can just say hello.
You can find links to today's recipes and reviews in the video description.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
See you later.
I'll see you later.